Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargava, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. Over the past few weeks, an ongoing police investigation has shaken Telangana. This investigation reveals that the phones of at least 600 people were allegedly tapped in the run-up to the November 2023 assembly elections. The tapping was reportedly carried out by the Special Intelligence Bureau during the tenure of the BRS government led by the then Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao. Now, the Indian Express's Nikhila Henry has been extensively investigating this matter for the paper. And she says that according to investigators, the surveillance specifically targeted opposition leaders, political workers, and journalists during the sensitive pre-election period.
Yeah, so this is a very unique case where the state machinery is admitting that there was legal surveillance, but somebody meddled with it and did illegal surveillance, and they have come close to proving it. So that's why the case is very important, and it's not something which is reported from, elsewhere. Say in Karnataka, there was a case earlier of phone tapping, but the details which have come out in Telangana, it's very granular, so because of which the case assumes a lot of importance.
So today, we are dedicating this episode to unpacking what we know about this case so far, what Nikhila's investigation for the paper has revealed, and what larger concerns it raises for the public. Nikhila, let me ask you, when did this case first come to light?
Yeah, so the case came to light in March 2024, and that is a year ago, when an intelligence official from the Special Intelligence Branch of Telangana went to Panjagutta police station, just like anybody else would, and said that we have somebody who has damaged a lot of hard disks, that is state property, in the intelligence branch. So the complaint basically reads that the person, D. Praneeth Rao, who was a DSP there, was indulging in illegal intelligence collection, and to cover that up, he basically destroyed a lot of property, including 62 hard disks. So that's when the case basically came to light, and when the Hyderabad police started investigating it. So what they found was basically that it was not just one DSP who was indulging in it. It went high up, and also parallelly it was going to other police officials and intelligence officials and even a television channel operator. So that's the beginning of the case. That the beginning of the case was in March 2024. But the events of the case happened much before that. That was in November and December 2023.
Right, this was during the run-up to the state assembly polls. But could you talk about who all do we know was surveilled upon?
Yeah, so we do know that, some people were surveilled upon based on the information which I have collected from our sources. We do know that the number one on the list was Revanth Reddy, the current chief minister, who was the TPCC president or Telangana Pradesh Congress Committee president during the time of surveillance, or he was in the opposition at that point of time. Then there are people like an IAS officer who was part of BSP at one point of time, that is R.S. Praveen Kumar. Then current BJP MP who was earlier with the BRS, Itala Rajender. We know that Dharmapuri Arvind, current BJP MP from Nizamabad constituency, he was under surveillance. Tinmar Malanna, alias C. Naveen Kumar, he was under surveillance, and the list goes on. So how we know that they were under surveillance is because the police have narrowed down on their names by talking to witnesses through confessions of the people who were arrested. Totally 4 people were arrested in the case and 6 have been questioned. So, it's based on their confessions, it's based on the evidence which the police have collected that these names have basically come out. So I wouldn't say come out because we went and basically dug them out. Yeah, so that's basically it.
Yeah, Nikhila, this period we are talking about is obviously very important. Can you talk about how crucial it was for the then BRS government?
The elections were very crucial because BRS was a party which was in power in Telangana for 10 years. That is, since the formation of Telangana in 2014 till 2023, they were in power. So they were basically looking for a third term. And, they were relying a lot on the welfare measures, the big infrastructure projects which they had committed and completed and all that. and they were really looking forward to a third term. But here comes Congress, with a new TPCC president who is A. Revanth Reddy and, who is posing a lot of challenges to the BRS party. And it almost seems like the election could swing by a small percentage of votes, which is precisely what happened. So yes, it was a high stakes election for the BRS and also for the Congress, even for the BJP, because while BRS was trying to retain their stronghold, the BJP was trying to increase their presence. The Congress was trying to come to power after a gap of 10 years. So it was an important election, the 2023 elections,
And is the police now alleging that this was mainly done so that BRS could come back to power again? Is that it?
Yeah, so the police's case has two levels. One is that the police is alleging that based on confessions and based on the proof that they have gathered so far, they are alleging that this sort of illegal phone tapping and surveillance, which included not just cell phones, but also, any sort of internet activity which you are undertaking and all that, went on from 2018-19 onwards. So that is during the previous elections when BRS came to power. 2018, they went to polls and, 2019, the new government came to power. So that is one part of the case. And the other part is basically what they're saying is that they have hard evidence to prove that this illegal surveillance happened during the run-up to the 2023 elections. That is for a 15-day period or during a 15-day window. That is from November 16th to November 30th. They are sure or they have evidence enough to prove that there was illegal surveillance targeting 600 people. So that's where the police's case is strong, and that's where we are at.
And you also write that one of the crucial pieces of evidence that the police has is a letter that had arrived at the Special Intelligence Branch in Hyderabad from a telecom operator. Now, this was a reconciliation letter. So before we talk about who had sent it and what it contained, can you talk about what exactly a reconciliation letter is?
Yeah, so what had happened was that, the SIB office or the Special Intelligence Branch office gets a lot of routine letters, when it comes to surveillance. They are called reconciliation letters because they basically say that, you have requested us to put these numbers and these IMEI cell phone numbers and, some other details, including the internet, connections and all that under surveillance for a period of 15 days. So is this legal? Is it authorized? And can it continue for another 15 days? Those are called reconciliation letters.
Right. And now tell us who had sent this letter. What did it say? And when was it sent to the branch?
Basically, what happened was that on November 30th, the elections were held in Telangana. And on December 3rd, 2023, the results came out and the Congress won the elections. So on December 4th, the SIB chief, T. Prabhakar Rao, resigned from his position. The then SIB chief resigned from his position. And what happens is that a reconciliation letter, a routine one, comes to the Special Intelligence Branch's DIG office on December 6th. So basically the letters, it attaches a host of cell phone numbers and IMEI numbers, and it basically says these were under legal surveillance for such and such a period. That is from November 16th to November 30th. Is this authorized and should we continue with it? So what happened was that when such a letter came, the new SIB, that's the one which is not under the former chief, A. Prabhakar Rao, they basically went and tried looking at all the numbers which were under surveillance. And this was not the only reconciliation letter which was received. There were other reconciliation letters which came from other telecom service providers. So the letter which we are talking about and a copy of which we have is the one sent by Reliance Jio. The Jio officials did not want to comment on it, but it's a routine letter, which basically came. And the other service providers who send their reconciliation letters, we are not naming them because we don't have copies of those letters. But on the whole, all the reconciliation letters put together and the numbers which were there in those reconciliation letters, when they were scrutinized, it was found that at least 600 belonged to people who were non-LWE or left-wing extremists.
Right, and maybe you could also tell our listeners why this is important. Why is it important that these 600 individuals were not left-wing extremists?
So what we need to remember is that a Special Intelligence Branch is a body which was formed in 1990 to counter the Naxal menace in the state of Andhra Pradesh. So Telangana was carved out of Andhra Pradesh in 2014. So the Special Intelligence Branch continued to work for Telangana. So their basic mandate is that they have to look at collecting intelligence which will thwart any sort of left-wing extremist or CPI Maoist actions. So all this legal surveillance which happens is for looking for people, who could be indulged in, who are allegedly involved with the CPI Maoist. So when they looked at the numbers, they realized that at least 600 people who were being surveilled were not LWE. So that is, they were politicians, they were bureaucrats, they were businessmen. There was a sitting high court judge, the spouses of all these people, their personnel who were working for them. So that's basically, what they found from the reconciliation letters.
And had the former chief, T. Prabhakar Rao, is he the one who had signed off on this?
So what we know is that T. Prabhakar Rao, who was the former SIB chief, was the designated authority in signing off on illegal intelligence in the state. So once he signs it off, it goes to a review panel which consists of the chief secretary, the home secretary, and the secretary of law and the DGP perhaps. They basically go through what the SIB chief has sent and okays it. So there is a review mechanism as well. It's not that it's not there. But T. Prabhakar Rao, who was the SIB chief, was the designated authority in signing off on legal intelligence collection as far as the SIB went.
So considering that there is a review mechanism in place for such things, it also raises questions about all those involved in that process, right?
Well, it does. So we did reach out to the then chief secretary and the then home secretary and others to check, whether they felt that it was foolproof. We did not elicit a response from them, but my sources in the police, they say that this mechanism basically failed because everybody involved in the higher chain, right, the higher in the hierarchy, they followed the lead of the SIB chief, is what my sources in the Hyderabad police are saying.
And could you also talk about exactly how they managed to snoop on people, what exactly they were able to do?
Yeah, so the accused from the Special Intelligence Branch wrote to telecom service providers like your phone network providers and intercepted calls of people. So if one person was talking to another person, two political leaders were talking, they would listen in on that particular conversation. And then they got a private lab to give them 3 or 4 tools which will do mining of data which you sent over your apps like WhatsApp, Facebook, YouTube and Snapchat and other such apps, X, for example. Yeah, so they did data mining and they also did phone interceptions.
And Nikhila, of course, among the people who were snooped upon, like you said, was Telangana's current Chief Minister, Revant Reddy. Can you talk about the kind of details we know about his case?
Yeah, so Telangana's current Chief Minister, A. Revant Reddy, was one of the prime targets of illegal surveillance, is what the police's case is saying. So in that, basically, surveillance was all around him, according to my sources. They basically covered his spouse, his family, his associates, his drivers, his PAs, and anybody, who's very close to him. It covered them all, is what my sources have said. And they used to call it, according to the Hyderabad police's investigation, in the Special Investigation Branch, there was this small team called the Special Operations Team, of which the accused number 2, D. Praneeth Rao, was the head. So he and his team used to call it the RR module or the Revant Reddy module, is what we have learned from our investigation. So, while covering all these people associated with Revant Reddy, they could track their movements, for instance. Like they would get not just their call data records, but also their internet protocol records. They would get their travel logs, their vehicle numbers. And this would involve a lot of people from what our sources are saying. So I think it was a very tight network if the police's case were to be taken for what it is. It was a very tight network of surveillance around Revanth Reddy, and he himself had said several times that he was under surveillance, when he was not the chief minister. Right now, we don't have a comment from him, but from whatever I have gathered, this is what we know.
And Nikhila, do we know in what way they managed to use the information they got through surveillance?
Yeah, so according to the Hyderabad police's case, they used to use the information, say for instance, to seize cash from the opponents of the BRS party, including the BJP and the Congress. So there is particular reference to one particular case in Munugodu where 1 crore cash was seized from an opposition party. And this was based on illegal intelligence which people got, is what I realized when I did the investigation. So cash seizures were one particular aspect of it. And then there were other aspects, like somebody who was under surveillance basically told me that they could basically figure out what was their next move. Like, for instance, they would go for a public meeting and already the police would be there waiting for them. So that would mean that, how did they get to know that, you are going for either for a public meeting or a private one? How would somebody else get to know, right? So a lot of people actually whom we spoke to 13 out of 17 people whom the police have named as having been under surveillance. So many of them actually told us that, their next move was calculated by the intelligence inputs which they got.
And there are 6 accused in the case and you reached out to all of them. In what way did they respond to your queries?
Yeah, so we spoke to the lawyers of T. Prabhakar Rao and D. Praneeth Rao, and also M. Tirupatanna and Bhujanga Rao, P. Radhakishan Rao, and A. Shravan Kumar. So the lawyers basically told us that the Hyderabad police's case is not strong enough and that they have no case, is what one lawyer told us. Another lawyer told us that, for example, T. Prabhakar Rao was a decorated police officer and that he would never indulge in something like illegal surveillance, and that, even before the discs were destroyed, he had left the office. Then the other lawyers basically said that, they do not have any comments to pass, but the lawyer of M. Tirupatanna told us that police does not have any case besides having a vague theory that illegal surveillance happened. So they don't have a case is what the punchline is.
And of course, the case is that the BRS was allegedly using this surveillance to gain advantage in the elections. But does KCR's name pop up in the investigation at all?
No, the BRS in the investigation is named Bharat Rashtra Samiti, which was earlier the Telangana Rashtra Samiti, and their leaders. So in nowhere does the investigation name either K. Chandrasekhar Rao or anybody else from the BRS party. They say BRS leaders on the insistence of BRS leaders, or that insistence of the BRS party, something like this, had happened. Yeah.
And finally, Nikhila, talk about the concerns this case raises, because here you have people within a top intelligence agency essentially working on the behest of political leaders.
Yeah, that's the police's case. That there are some interesting aspects of the case as well. Like, for instance, they have witness statements of about 11 people, 11 loggers who have confessed or who have basically said that they were listening to conversations of political leaders. So it's not entirely true that the police's case is, it's not strong, right? I mean, they have enough to go by. And I think that a second charge sheet is also going to be filed very soon. As far as political intelligence gathering is concerned, I'm sure that the biggest concern which this raises is that, can any lay person, any citizen of the country be under surveillance just because they are having a public profile, or that, they are aligned to a particular political party, or that they are talking to politicians, who are aligned to the opposition political party. So can any party in power indulge in illegal surveillance if they want to? That's the question, which the series of stories which we did raises, is what I think.
You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was written and produced by me, Shashank Bhargava, and was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it, share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.